Donald Trump has faced many challenges during his political career, but nothing seems to shake his confidence more than being blindsided by someone he once considered an ally, or at least a known quantity in his orbit. As the 2025 election draws near, the former president finds himself caught off guard by an unexpected and deeply personal political blow that has left his campaign reeling and his inner circle scrambling to contain the fallout. Sources close to the Trump campaign describe the situation as a moment of pure disbelief, an instance where Trump was not only politically challenged, but emotionally rattled by the one person he reportedly fears most stepping into the political spotlight with a message that cuts straight into the heart of his narrative. According to insiders, this unexpected figure is not a Democrat nor an outsider, but someone who knows Trump's playbook better than most and who has chosen this precise moment to turn the tables on him. The timing is no coincidence, as polls show. Trump's led narrowing in several key battleground states where the margins are razor thin. This new challenge threatens to derail his carefully orchestrated strategy and expose vulnerabilities that he and his advisors have worked for months to conceal. The news broke during what was supposed to be a triumphant week for Trump. His campaign had planned a series of rallies across Florida and Pennsylvania aimed at showcasing momentum and energy among his base. But just as Trump took the stage to address thousands of supporters, a political bombshell detonated online, capturing headlines and dominating the airwaves. The story immediately overshadowed his message and shifted the narrative from confidence and inevitability to damage control and denial. The source of this disruption comes from someone with deep connections to Trump's world, someone who has been behind the curtain during his rise and fall and who understands not just his policies, but his insecurities and fears. This person's decision to go public with revelations and warnings about Trump's leadership sent shockwaves through Washington and forced many Republicans to rethink their public loyalty. The move was described by one political analyst as a knife twist from within, a betrayal that cuts far deeper than partisan attacks. Trump's reaction, according to several aides, was explosive. He reportedly erupted in fury during a closed-door meeting, yelling that he was being targeted from all sides and demanding to know who was leaking information to the press. Those in the room described the atmosphere as tense, with Trump pacing back and forth and firing off phone calls to allies demanding statements of loyalty. The scene was a reminder of his White House days, when even small setbacks could provoke major internal turmoil and sudden firing. What makes this betrayal particularly damaging is not just who delivered it, but what it contained. The revelations painted Trump as increasingly erratic behind the scenes, obsessed with revenge and deeply fearful of losing control over his own narrative. They claim that Trump's decisions are now driven less by political calculation and more by personal resentment against those he believes betrayed him in the aftermath of his 2020 defeat. The disclosures also included alleged private conversations that portray a man consumed by paranoia about the election process and skeptical of even his closest advisors. For weeks, Trump's opponents had been searching for a moment that could puncture his aura of inevitability and turn his strength into weakness. That moment appears to have arrived as political commentators describe the incident as a turning point in the 2025 race. The person behind the revelations has credibility with Trump's base, which makes the impact far more dangerous than any attack from the Democratic side, because this challenge comes not from his political enemies but from a former insider. The narrative becomes harder for Trump to dismiss as fake news or partisan propaganda. The immediate consequence of the news was a noticeable dip in Trump's campaign morale. Several prominent donors reportedly paused their financial commitments, awaiting clarity on the fallout. Some of Trump's key surrogates privately admitted that the timing of this event could not be worse as the campaign prepares for crucial debates and major fundraising drives. The sense of unease spread quickly across conservative media circles, with hosts struggling to balance their traditional support for Trump against a growing wave of questions about his judgment and stability. Meanwhile, Democrats seized on the controversy to portray Trump as unfit and unstable. Their campaign strategists quickly amplified the story across social media, framing it as further evidence that the former president remains too volatile to govern. Again, they argued that Trump's inability to maintain loyalty even among his closest allies reflects a broader pattern of chaos that would once again engulf the country if he returns to office. Behind the scenes, Trump's campaign is working overtime to rid from the situation, spinning it as a smear orchestrated by the deep state or by corporate media bent on destroying him. Yet this line of defense is showing diminishing returns, as even long-time Trump supporters express fatigue over repeated scandals and internal feuds. The fact that this latest controversy was ignited by someone once close to him makes the denials less persuasive and the damage more lasting. In private, Trump has been calling trusted confidants, asking who might still be loyal and who might be preparing to turn on him. The conversations reveal a deepening sense of isolation, reminiscent of the final months of his presidency, when staffers were leaving and allies were distancing themselves. Trump's instincts for survival remain sharp, but his circle of trust has grown smaller by the day. One longtime aide described the mood as bunker mentality, with everyone watching everyone else. Political analysts point out that Trump's greatest vulnerability has always been his his ego. His public image is built on strength, dominance and control. But when those qualities are publicly questioned by someone he respects or fears, it strikes at the core of his identity. The person behind this latest challenge reportedly framed their criticism not as an ideological attack, but as a warning that Trump's temperament makes him a danger to his own movement. That framing resonates deeply among conservative voters who admire Trump's policies but worry about his self-destructive impulses. As the story unfolds, the media has been relentless in covering every twist and detail. Networks have devoted hours to dissecting the relationship between Trump and his accuser, tracing how their alliance once shaped the Republican Party and how it ultimately soured. The coverage has reignited old debates about loyalty versus accountability and whether Trump's grip on the GOP remains as strong as it once was. Pollsters note that while Trump's base remains largely intact, there are growing signs of erosion among independents and suburban voters who could determine the outcome of the election. At his next rally, Trump attempted to downplay the controversy, but his tone betrayed frustration. He lashed out at the media, accusing them of fabricating lies and manipulating the public. He also took veiled swipes at unnamed traitors within the movement, warning that those who betray him will pay a steep price. His remarks drew loud cheers from loyal supporters, but analysts noted a subtle shift in his energy, less triumphant and more defensive. Behind closed doors, campaign officials are reworking strategy to blunt the impact of the revelation. Some are pushing for a pivot back to core issues like immigration and economy, while others argue for an aggressive counterattack on the credibility of the person behind the allegations. The challenge lies in maintaining message discipline at a time when Trump himself is unpredictable and prone to improvisation on stage. A single F-script remark could reignite headlines and undo days of careful planning. The Biden campaign, meanwhile, is treating the development as a political gift without overtly commenting on it publicly. Instead, Democratic strategists are quietly using the moment to court undecided voters, emphasizing stability and trust over chaos and revenge. Their internal polling reportedly shows a slight uptick in key swing states following the controversy, suggesting that the drama surrounding Trump is once again pushing some moderates away from him. Republican leaders find themselves in a delicate position, torn between defending Trump and protecting their own political futures. Many are choosing silence, hoping to avoid being dragged into the storm. A few have offered tapered statements about party unity, but the lack of full threat of support underscores the growing unease within the GOP establishment. Some fear that this new conflict could widen existing fractures within the party just months before the convention. Observers note that this episode mirrors previous moments when Trump faced rebellion from within his ranks, but the difference now is the proximity to election day and the credibility of the person leading the challenge. If this situation escalates, it could shift not only public perception, but also donor confidence and voter turnout dynamics, especially among conservatives who have grown weary of constant drama. In the days following the revelation, Trump's social media presence became even more combative. He fired off posts attacking enemies real and imagined and accusing his critics of betrayal and cowardice. The tone suggested a man under siege, unwilling to show weakness but increasingly cornered by forces he can't fully control. His posts were shared widely by supporters, but also mocked by opponents as evidence of instability. Campaign staffers are reportedly exhausted trying to manage the crisis and keep Trump focused on policy rather than personal feuds. Some have privately described the campaign as chaos on wheels, with competing factions vying for influence over messaging and strategy. The tension between loyalty and practicality has reached a breaking point, with some advisors urging Trump to take a more disciplined approach while others encourage him to double down on his combativeness. The larger question now looming over the race is whether this moment will be remembered as a temporary setback or a decisive turning point for Trump. The stakes could not be higher. His political brand thrives on the image of invincibility and the perception that he cannot be beaten. But when that image is cracked by someone from within, it threatens to unravel that very foundation of his appeal. In the end, Trump remains a master of survival, able to turn scandals into rallying cries and betrayals into badges of honor. Yet as the 2025 election approaches, the accumulation of controversies and the erosion of loyalty within his ranks present a formidable challenge. This latest betrayal from the person he fears most may prove to be the moment that defines his campaign, one that reveals whether Trump still possesses the political magic that once seemed unstoppable, or whether the weight of his own history has finally caught up to him. For now, Trump continues to project confidence, holding rallies and promising victory, but beneath the bravado, there is a growing recognition that this time the threat is real and the battlefield has changed. The enemy is not only outside his walls but within, and as the nation watches his response, the outcome of the election may hinge on whether he can conquer the one opponent he truly fears, himself.